With Dark Souls 3 out of the way, we arrive at our final journey, Elden Ring and the Lands Between. This is the game I was most excited to do a Sorcery Only challenge run of. Elden Ring has so many differences from the prior games in this series that it changes the shape of a challenge run. And the game doesn't pull any punches on enemy movesets and difficulty either. And it doesn't need to, because every bonkers move it gives a boss, it gives you access to a wild suite of options in talismans, ashes of war, and its enormous pool of incantations and sorceries. Obviously I can't use incantations or ashes of war, since they aren't sorceries, but the huge amount of talismans and sorceries will more than suffice. Preamble out of the way, let's hop into the run, build my final sorcery boy, and pretend to watch this cutscene so I have some B-roll in case I need it later. And I immediately jump instead of interacting to pick up these items. That's gonna keep happening, huh? Jump off this cliff because nobody has time for a grafted scion. Thanks to fall damage, we get into the actual game and get our flasks. Just like Dark Souls 3, this game has an FP system for casting spells rather than a set number of casts per spell. And out into the beautiful open world, and our first task is to get set up. See, the open world of Elden Ring is incredibly well designed. Except on subsequent playthroughs, especially when doing a challenge run, it means you can access a huge number of items just because you know where they are. So let's speedrun in this challenge run and skip through over an hour of footage to get a basic setup going, okay? Talk to Melania, get Torrent. Royal House Scroll will get us Carrion Slicer shortly. Wondrous Physic is a customizable flask. Meteorite Staff is the best scaling staff at this point in the game, but it can't be upgraded. Rocksling deals physical damage rather than magic damage. Dectus Medallion Half will get us to Altus early, and the Radagon Soreseal will cover our physical stats so that we don't have to put points in them just yet. The first Memory Stone gives us more attunement slots. Knight Cavalry falls off a cliff and gives us a bunch of runes. Turtle Pope is the bestest boy and sells us some great sorceries. Knight Cavalry 2 is in my way, I guess? Kill a pumpkin to get to Selen, who sells worse spells than the Pope, but we want her quests later on. The second Memory Stone gives us even more attunement slots. And finally we kill Nerijus to get to Patches, whose bell bearing lets us buy the recipe for Golden Fowl Feet. These leather pants are so disappointing, they barely show off my butt. Whew, all that done, we can finally go fight the first proper boss in the game. Well, I say first proper boss, but technically most of the bosses in this game are optional. To get to Leyndell and continue on, I just need to kill 2 shard bearers. Any 2 will do. But we might as well start with the easiest, which means killing Margit. Margit can actually be tricky as the first required boss. He's strong enough to convince you to go explore elsewhere, get stronger, and come back later. Except we already went elsewhere and got stronger. And Carrion Slicer does not mess around. Farron Flash Sword in Dark Souls 3 was okay, but a bit weak. Carrion Slicer has no such downside and absolutely carves through Margit. Quickly run through the supposedly well-guarded gate and up the path, and we're already at another boss. Seriously, are all the legacy dungeons gonna be so skippable? Godfrey is honestly less intimidating, and a combination of the blender that is Carrion Slicer and the blunt force trauma of Rocksling means he goes down very quickly and very easily. First shard bearer down, and it's time for more errands. Yeah, there's more stuff I can grab. Honestly, there are going to be several more of these sections. I could have done a lot of these at the very beginning, but I didn't want to spend the first 5 hours of this challenge running around doing nothing. Better to intersperse them throughout a bit more. Also, the fight against Margit and Godfrey proves pretty handily that I didn't need any of these additional upgrades. Carrion Glintstone Staff boosts the damage of Carrion Sword sorceries, even though they don't need it. Magic Cracked here can be put in my Physic to boost magic damage. O'Neill dies, and I had nothing to do with it. Do just enough of Millicent's quest so Gowry will sell me spells. He sells Mist, but don't get too excited though, it doesn't scale like it did in Dark Souls 3. Grab the glintstone key I'll need shortly. Carrion Piercer doesn't deal as much damage as Slicer or Greatsword, but it hits poise enough to knock down Crucible Knights, which I think is just a crime. Kill this NPC to get Magma Shot, so I have another damage type for when magic won't do. Kill a nonsense number of birds to satisfy my foot obsession. Delicious golden fowl feet. Okay, even more errands completed, so I can go after the next Shard Bearer. And there aren't really any good options. Radon is scaled for a much higher level than I am. Rykard is fine, if you can use the gimmick weapon, but I can't. Moog is even more scaled than Radon, so he's a big nope. That only leaves Renala, who isn't too difficult normally, except she has a stupid high magic defense. Let's hope Rock Sling and Magma Shot can burn/crush her down. Mist doesn't scale, but it may be worth a try. I get to Red Wolf, and for some reason I cannot remember how to dodge their attacks. Fortunately, Carrion Slicer deals so much damage it doesn't even matter that I'm playing badly. Then into Renala. Break the gold shells around her students, and then try to get in as much damage before her shell comes back. Let's see how Mist just never disappoints, does it? I 2-cycle phase 1 because Mist deals so much damage. Phase 2 is more difficult, mostly because my strategy of standing back and throwing rocks and magma at her makes her strategy of melting me with Comet Azer more effective. How's Mist do in Phase 2? Oh, it's exactly as deadly as in Phase 1. Nice. I hate how her summon breaks lock-on. Renala pacified, I grab Terra Magica and the Gavel and Hammer spells. All of these can be useful in a wide variety of circumstances. Shame I'm going to forget them entirely for the rest of the playthrough. And with that, it's time for even more errands. Okay, my notes here just have a time code and the phrase Pervert Scorpion. What does that mean? What could that mean past me? Let's find out together, shall we? Oh, the magic scorpion charm you get from Celavis in exchange for the Amber Starlight. Okay, that makes way more sense. That mystery solved, I go ahead and grab some bell bearings so I can buy smithing stones later on. Spoiler, I won't ever do that. Kill another tree to get some runes. Takes a couple tries because literally any attack one-shots me, but fortunately all the trees have the same moveset, so it's not that difficult to learn. Finally, grab 2 more bell bearings that I don't need and won't use. Phase 3 errands completed, it's time to head into Lanedale with my 2 great runes. Tree Sentinel is a bit tricky because I have all the durability of a pinwheel, but fortunately Carrion Slicer has no concept of being balanced and blends him into a fine golden paste. I should probably start to level Vigor, like, at all. It's so funny thinking back to my first playthrough where I got so completely lost in Lanedale that I had to look up how to get through here. Now I can get from the entrance to Goldfree in a few minutes. Goldfree is pretty easy, his moveset isn't too hard to predict, and you get double practice against him in a regular playthrough thanks to the fight against real Froy later on. Carrion Slicer, it still carves enemies to death. Morgott is definitely harder. His moveset from the market fight has leveled up, dealing more damage and being harder to dodge. I forego Carrion Slicer for Rock Sling, which manages to get the job done. Guess what? More errands. Cerulean Tear, even though I never end up using it. Doesn't one of these enemies also drop a Briar spell? That could be useful, and I'm dead. Also, no, they don't. Comet Azer. Not going to use it, but I need it for Selin's questline. Grab Stars of Ruin, get lost, and follow a ghost out. Or I would have, except I stopped to write down that I was following a ghost out. Ghost disappeared, and I got lost again. Oh, I forgot this was where Ambush Shard was. Good thing I never planned on using it. Ow. Ow! Oh wow, look at all these arrows. Fight Radon, just for runes and in case I want to go down to Nokron later. I consider summoning helpers and decided to try it without doing that first. It ends up being pretty easy. Rocksling hits like a truck and has good enough range. I do take so long killing him that he meteors twice. I didn't actually know he could do that. Finally, completed Selin's quest, which gives me... This isn't the Graven Mass Talisman. Why did I think this gave me the Graven Mass Talisman? Oh well, I buy Shard Spiral because it can be really useful against the final boss, which would be great, except I throw it in the trunk with all the other sorceries I pick up and immediately forgot about it. Finally, I pick up the Staff of Loss because it gives a 30% bonus to invisibility sorceries, which includes the somehow more broken than Carrion Slicer Night Comet. Then kill these chumps to grab Lucette's staff, the only staff I will be upgrading the entire playthrough. All this talk of staves reminded me, as I run through the snow peaks, I should briefly talk about how staves work in this game, because they work a little odd. The staff you can cast a spell with determines the general efficacy of the spell based on the spell buff stat, which is based on the staff's base value, scaling, etc. However, the spell still benefits from any passive buffs on the staff in your other hand. What this means is I can cast all my spells using the comically overpowered Lucette staff and still get buffs for particular spells by cycling through staves in my offhand. If you see me constantly switching offhand staves, that is why. It also unfortunately requires a lot of effort to switch the spell I have readied and switch staves every time I want to switch what I'm casting so that I can maximize the damage I deal. Okay, so that explanation took a little bit longer than I intended. Let's see how the Fire Giant's doing. Oh, he's not. Fire Giant should have invested less in Vigor and more in magic resistance, because Carrion Slicer does not care how much HP he has. I take this opportunity to take a short detour through Volcano Manor, both to get some free runes from the Godskin Noble, and to see how my spells end up faring against Rykard. The Noble ends up being pretty easy. His health isn't that high, Carrion Slicer deals way too much damage, and you fight this boss 2 to 4 times in every playthrough, so you can get plenty of practice at it. His stupid rollout attack can't even kill me. Though it does come very, very close. Let's see how my spells do against Rykard. Bad, actually. Yeah, this is gonna be a nope. Kill this Tibia Mariner back in the northern snowfields on the way to Niall, mostly because I forgot where it was and ran into it by accident, but hey, free souls. I expected difficulty with Niall, and there it definitely is some. But Night Comet destroys his helpers very quickly, and Niall himself spends a lot of time slowly walking towards me while getting hit with rocks. Finally, a quick trip to Fake Freud to get the charged talisman because Night Comet can be charged. Wait, is it Niall? Neil? Nilong? Run through Faramazula because there really isn't anything here I want. I'm a bit worried about the twins. No helper and no ability to put them to sleep can make this fight pretty tricky. And the last twins I fought sent me into a nightmare spiral. And yeah, it's pretty rough. It's hard to have enough FP flasks to cast the spells I need, and enough HP flasks to heal from their attacks that I've apparently decided I'm just not gonna dodge. Also, it's been said many times before, but the hitbox on this rollout attack is complete garbage. It doesn't take as long as I thought it would though. Just gotta maintain spacing, back away, maintain spacing. Plus, it helps that if I can get them in a line, Night Comet can hit both, which is great damage. Oh shoot, I forgot to get more feet. Another run through another area, stopping briefly to grab the somber ancient dragon smithing stone. This means Lucette's staff is finally at a +10 and my damage is even more unreasonable. I need to level up Mind for FP, but soon I can start boosting intelligence all the way up to 80. I spend a lot of time trying to carry and slicer Garronk/Malekith, and it doesn't go great. He's really aggressive in both phases, and his attacks can be difficult to dodge, especially when you're tired and don't want to learn how to dodge them. Fortunately, Night Comet exists. Still, it takes a few tries because Malekith moves around and towards you pretty aggressively, but my damage is absolutely bonkers. This brings us to the Ashen Capital and the final few fights of the game. It's late and I'm hungry, so I order some food. Do I have time to fight Gideon before it arrives? Of course I do. Do I also have time to fight Hoaraloo before it arrives? Yes, considering I get the fight in one try, because Carrion Slicer still stomps everything. Okay, last couple errands to get me ready for the final sequence of fights. I grab the Graven Mask Talisman from where it actually is in the Consecrated Snowfield. Yes, I had to deal damage with Crystal Darts for the puzzle, deal with it. This can replace Magic Scorpion because it's 2/3 as good as doesn't make me super fragile. I got invaded by 3 separate invaders just getting into Moog's area to grab the Hallitree +2 talisman for the holy resistance it offers. How's the Moog fight?
Is mine and mine alone.
Yeah, no. With final preparations complete, all that is left is to finish out this final game. Let's get into it. Radagon is tough. He has a lot of moves with weird timings, and I never got the hand of dodging them all. Carrion Slicer puts me in melee, and I keep getting destroyed. So I switch to Night Comet. It's better, but Radagon has like 5 ways to cover the distance. It takes a few tries, but eventually Night Comet, and keeping my distance, gets me through Radagon and to the final boss. So, Elden Beast is normally a really annoying fight. Not because of his moveset or design or anything, it's just because he keeps jumping from one side of the arena to the other, and you have to keep running after him. Except this time, for some reason, he spends most of the fight staying pretty close to me. I appreciate this, as does Carrion Slicer. With Elden Beast beaten and Marika's head put back on her shoulders, Elden Ring is completed. That was a really fun run. Elden Ring has such a great variety of sorceries for me to ignore in favor of the 5 actually useful ones. Carrion Slicer, Night Comet, and Rocksling were really the MVPs of this run, with Mist doing some clutch work in that Renala fight. But as credits are coming up, that concludes all 5 Sorcery Only runs. Tune in next Friday for my breakdown of the comparison of these 5 runs. You know what they say, be gay, do crimes.